all. You all are welcome to our Guru Gather English program. As usual, I am going to continue our lessons on appreciation of English literary texts. So, today I thought of focusing your attention on another poem written by another female poet. Right? So, shall we move on to the slide and see what's there? The Terrorist, He is Watching by Wislawa Symborska. So, you can see a picture of that lady or the female poet in her middle age, and again something relevant to the topic because that picture shows you some kind of violence and harm caused by a sort of attack, and you can just see what it is because the very word terrorist suggests us that it is something to do with violence and terror. The terrorist he is watching. So, when you look at that title of the poem, we get an idea that terrorist is watching something. So, what is he going to watch? Let us see. At the same time, another person is also observing everything. Who that person can be? Right? At the same time, at the end of the lesson, you will be able to know about the message that this particular poet is going to say, the effect that it creates in the minds of readers. The poet is trying to give us a serious message, and with that message, what type of effect will be there in our minds as readers. And another important thing is, as usually when I explain lessons, I tell you that literature helps us change our minds, our attitudes and values. So, this poem too does the same role of changing our attitudes and values, right. So, we will see what type of moral lesson or what type of values are there in this poem titled The Terrorist, He is Watching, right. Let us see. All right, children. Now, I am going to give some information about this poet, and she is a Polish female poet. That means she was born in Poland, and then she is an essayist and a translator. She has written approximately 350 published poems and 15 books. When hearing all these things, you can understand her contribution to literature. Then she was born in 1923, Prownet, West Poland, and she has won the Nobel Prize for Literature. So, those are some basic information about her character, and then after that I am going to read something very important. When World War II started, Nazi Germany occupied Poland in 1940. This prevented Polish citizens from attending public schools. Wislawa continued her studies in an underground school under Wawel Castle. Now, think of this situation, children. So, just because of war, those people or the citizens in that country could not send their children to school, and this particular girl with some others had attended a school. Public school means something like a government school. So, then they had attended a school which was situated under a building. The name of that is Wawel Castle, and just because it is a huge one, the name is given Castle. And then they had done their studies in that particular school, underground school. Think of it. So, when it comes to the present situation in our country, very often you have to be away from school and at home. So, do not take it as a barrier or else some kind of a hindrance for your education. You also can continue your education, your studies, and we are here to help you. So, make use of this opportunity as well and take that example from this lady's character. That is what I wanted for you all to learn, and that is why especially I selected that particular piece of information, right. So, then can you remember when they were disturbed in their education because of war? There is a corona pandemic is also a type of war without any weapons, right. So, we have to be very careful. So, having this particular example as a motivation, you all go ahead with your education. That is a kind request, of course. I think you are familiar with me now because you have watched our lessons, and so this is a kind request. So, go on with your education like this, and I together with all the others will help you all to continue your education. When you take this poem, there are 5 stanzas at varied lengths in the poem. That means the length of each stanza is different, right. The poem deals with the theme of conflicts. So, in the syllabus, that particular lesson is categorized under the theme of conflicts. When you hear the word conflicts and the word terrorist, we definitely get the idea that it is something that relates to violence and terror, and people are disturbed in their daily routine of work. And because of this poet's background and how she felt and how she was in that particular country at that period, has given her this first-hand experience, and this poem is also a kind of manifestation of destruction, and to show that this violence and this terrorism is something common to all the places in the world. That means it is a worldwide terrorism, right. So, everywhere terrorist activists do certain things, right. So, fortunately in Sri Lanka we all have some kind of freedom now, and let us enjoy that freedom and continue all what we do, right. So, then this poem is going to be a somewhat lengthy one, and that explains all the emotions related to kind of conflicts, terror and destruction that takes place in 4 minutes. That is the important thing here in this poem, because there is a particular time countdown of time, and in 4 minutes this particular writer is going to show us how the things change and how the life will be very different from it was 4 minutes ago, like, right. So, we will read the poem and see. A shorter period of time, a terrorist, he is watching is the title. Remember, that title is very important, and it hints us that the writer and the terrorist both are watching this. So, what are they going to watch? We will see. The bomb in the bar will explode at 13:20 or 13:20. So, according to universal time count, you can just say 13:20, right, 1:20 as we know. Now, it is just 13:16. From 13:16 to 13:20, there is only 4 minutes time period, right. There is still time for someone to go in and some to come out. The bomb in the bar will explode at 13:20. Now, it is just 13:16. That is a gap of 4 minutes, and during that 4 minutes period, there will be a lot of change. She says there are still time for some to go in and some to come out. So, where were these people? Those who are coming out, they are in the bar, and some of course are going into the bar. So, paying attention to this word bar, I have to say something specially, because I know as Sri Lankan students, you all are familiar with the word bar as something that is used by grown up male characters in Sri Lanka, right. So, this is not something to do with like that, and this place is common for all people of different ages. Now, you can see and you can read in the poem that teenagers are also going there, adults also going there, and girls and boys all are there to enjoy, not merely drinking, right. So, then you can see that particular picture I have chosen. I wanted to give you the impression that this bar is quite different from Sri Lankan bars, right. So, then just see, they are very happy, they are enjoying, and especially they are having a nice chat, it seems, right. So, rather than worrying about their drink or what they eat, especially they go to bars to eat, and at the same time they may have some kind of bites and everything. So, anyway, this is a special place where they are going to, that is open up for all ages and common for all, right, not merely restricted to men like in Sri Lanka. Right. Having that idea in mind, please go on reading this, then you can very easily understand and get the meaning that the writer is trying to give us, right. If I repeat the lines, the bomb in the bar will explode at 13:20. Now it is just 13:16. There are still time for some to go in and some to come out. This is very important. Having this idea in mind, let us move on to the next stanza. There it has only 3 lines, and I told you 3 line stanza is a tercet. First one is a 4 line, and that is a quatrain, right. Then the terrorist has already crossed the street. That distance keeps him out of danger, and what a weave, just like the movies. See now, what the writer is going to express is very particular and very important at the same time, and very special, because this particular terrorist who had placed the bomb close to the bar, maybe somewhere at the entrance, as we understand when we read the poem, has moved away from that particular place to a safety place. Now, think of the attitudes and how they are going to find a safety location while they are going to destroy many other lives. So, that is why that person has selected a place like bar. So, then the number of deaths will be more, and the effect of that blast will be felt by many, and that is a place meant for enjoyment, entertainment, and then at the end, when it comes a place of death and lamentation, its effect of violence, effect of this blast will be felt very seriously by everybody. So, to hurt and to give a very serious effect to the people, the citizens, they have chosen a place like that. Very innocent people are killed in vain just because of this terrorist act of some extremists. We also experience the same in Sri Lanka, and here also they are going to describe such situation that took place in another geographical context, not in Sri Lanka. It is understood with that word bar. If it is pub, of course, we know that it is not a place in Sri Lanka, but here just because we hear that all girls and boys going together, teenagers, definitely it is a place out of Sri Lanka, right. the terrorist has already crossed the street to find a safety location. When you hear these lines, how do you feel? Is it fair? Is it just? So they have come, placed a bomb and found security for themselves and letting many others suffer. Letting many others suffer. Is it okay? How unfair? And what a weave, just like a movie. So he is watching as if he is watching a movie. That word movie, of course we watch movie as a form of entertainment. So we derive pleasure or we are going to be happy when we watch the movie. Likewise, looking at, watching how these people are moving up and down and moving in and out of the bar, this man is enjoying, is happy. The more those who are going into the bar, the happier he will be. Why? Because the number of deaths will increase, right? So, and what a weave, just like movies. So it is a very cynical idea. It is very much unpleasant idea in his mind. So very wild, making others' lives in trouble or putting others' lives in trouble, enjoying, being happy is something that we can't say yes or we can't approve, right? So, but that is the mentality of terrorists when their mind is corrupted, when their mind is spoiled, when they are brainwashed, right? Find the words that best expresses the ideas conveyed with the lines in these two stanzas. That is just an activity for you all, just to have a kind of variety. So, I think it is much better to take a paper and pen, jot down these words quickly. I will read, at the same time you can just write it as quickly as possible. When I am talking, you start writing it, and then we can make our lesson very much interesting, and you also gain something very useful at the end of the lesson, right. So, let us read all these words. Stupid and wild. Second one, excitement. Selfish and tricky. Uncertainty. Tension and pressure. Terror and fear. Senseless, cynical attitude of terrorists. So, those are the words I have given you. So, shall I repeat? Stupid and wild, excitement, selfish and tricky, uncertainty, tension and pressure, terror and fear, senseless, cynical attitudes of terrorists, right. So, these are the lines in these two stanzas. The bomb in the bar will explode at 13:20. Now it's just 13:16. There is still time for some to go in and some to come out. The terrorist has already crossed the street. That distance keeps him out of danger, and water weave just like the movies, right. Can you match? Yes. The bomb in the bar will explode at 13:20. What can be the answer? Yes, from all these. Stupid and wild, excitement. Yes, it is excitement. And then stupid and wild, the terrorist has already crossed the street. The distance keep him out of danger, selfishness. There is time for some to go in and some to come out, tension, excitement, right. So, that and what to weave, just like the movies, tells us about that senseless, cynical attitude of the terrorist, right. So, these are the answers, and just to have an idea, I just gave this activity, right. Then first stanza. When we talk about this first stanza furthermore, we understand how decisive even 1 second, right, of a person or an individual in his or her life, because we know that in a few minutes the bomb is going to blast. So, people who are going in are in danger, more danger, and then those who are coming out sometimes will be lucky, or luckier sometimes. We will see what is going to happen in the poem. Anyway, how decisive even 1 second can be for a person or an individual in his life, right. Then demeaning of humanity and barbarism in terrorist groups. Now think of this situation where they are going to place a bomb and looking for their safety, crossing the road, and all the time they want others to suffer because of them. They want his destruction, they want to see death and violence, right. So, then demeaning of humanity. So, we all belong to one category, that is human beings. So, because of certain political or ethnic or what religious or some other belief or some kind of division has made these people get into different groups and work against each other. So, terrorists are the most dangerous among all these extremists having all these ideas. So, demeaning of humanity, and then barbarism, the harassment, and then very serious crime that they are going to commit because of they are having some violent ideas and they do not have non-violence, right. So, then after that, lack of sensible feelings to be healers yet destroyers. They have become a kind of destroyers. They do not bring any kind of happiness, concession, relief, or any other comfortable feeling to the minds of people with their terrorist acts. They have been away from this sensible feeling of being a healer, even with a smile, even with an act of kindness. We can become a healer to another heart, but it is very evident and it is very clear here that this terrorist has caused a kind of destruction, and that person has become a destroyer instead of becoming a healer. Shall I raise a question? How many of you have become a healer to another heart? When? You can do it in your family itself, with your elderly grandparents, and even when your parents are not well in their health, and when you have some other issues like your little sisters and brothers. Anyway, when somebody is unhappy, if you can speak few kind words, if you can do an act of kindness, then you become a healer. These are very simple and very easy, and it does not cost anything. You don't want to have money, but only thing is your thoughtful deeds and your thoughtfulness to become a healer. I hope you understood the meaning of the word healer. At the same time, what simple things we can do to be healers. But here of course we find a kind of destroyers, right? Just because that particular terrorist has placed a bomb. Now who is telling all these things? Because the second stanza definitely is told by the poet, because the poet says that particular terrorist has crossed the road and he is watching what is going on there as if he is watching a movie. So, definitely it is an idea expressed by the poet. Fine. Then we will see what are the other ideas that come to the mind of the terrorist when he is looking at, or while he was looking at all these things. Fine. Let us see what is there next. So, there is a picture, and that person is of course wearing a black color dress, At the same time, I wanted you to get at certain meanings, because I can't elaborate on every line with some pictures, but here the lines of the third stanza tell us something like this. Let's read and see. A woman in yellow jacket, she is going in. A man in dark glasses, he is coming out. Teenagers in jeans, they are talking. 13, 17 and 4 seconds. The short one, he is lucky. He is going on a scooter. But the tall one, he is going in. Now, the writer is giving us a description of some of the people going in and coming out of this bar, and some those who are staying in, like teenagers in jeans. I think you will get that picture that I showed in your mind, or else you can have your own visual images when you read these lines. Teenagers in jeans, they are talking. Then why I have highlighted all these words: a woman, a man, teenagers, the short one, the tall one. That is how the lines are given. That is how these people who are coming in and going out are described. No names are given. But after saying the teenagers, they, pronoun they is there. A man, and referring to that man, the writer has used the word he. Then again a woman, and then after that the writer says she. The short one, he. The tall one, he. We get the idea that this particular reference like this with physical appearance or the gender, like woman and man, or teenagers comparing their age, and then the physical appearance, right. So, this particular reference in these lines suggests that that is something to do with impersonal attitude, because this writer doesn't know anyone, can't give any identity, right. So, what she can say, or what the writer can mention in the poem about their physical appearance or the age or the gender, right. So, quite unknown, like no attachment away from that, and then relationship is distant. So, if it was something to do with very close, very intimate relationship, we feel it more. But to show that detachment and whatever happened to these people, they do not care, like idea is given with this, because that introduction to them is quite different, away from that intimate or close relationship, impersonal, and that identity is something to do with their gender, age, or the physical appearance, right. So, clear to you the detachment, and then the effect is less when they are harmed, or when they are in trouble, or when they die even, because no attachment. So, everybody is the same, like, right. So, that is the attitude or the idea of this terrorist, because he does not want to care about any of these people, whether they are mothers or fathers or the sisters or brothers. Those relationships matter for him, right. What he wants is the maximum destruction or the violence there, right. Is it clear to you the idea that the writer wanted to express, and the way I explained is clear to you, I hope, right. So, with this explanations, we will move on to the next slide. What do the words in blue color indicate? The distance and unfamiliarity, impersonal attitude. That is what I was explaining you. You can note down these things, because now I have listed them out. I explained these things very well, and now even you can just make a note. So, these lines are there in the next stanza, and to show that, right. So, the distance and that unfamiliarity, impersonal attitude. They have used, the writer has used, to show the attitude of the terrorist. Right. Then they have no identity, lack of identity for the terrorist. But those who are going in, having a chat, teenagers, talking and all that, they know each other. But for this terrorist, they are strangers. Ordinary people, right? So, we do not hear about any of the special figure, right? Like a president or the prime minister or the minister of defense or anything like that, right? Then, list out the emotions you get after hearing these lines and think of the helplessness of these people. They are not aware of what's going to happen within another 4 minutes time. And when these things were explained, of course, time has flown. And then they are getting closer and closer to their death or the destruction or the wounds and injuries and a kind of unhappiness. Then we get an idea of contempt. We do not like to have such incidents and such situations, and then we do not want people to be unhappy. So, we do not want to accept them, we refuse them, right. So, there is contempt, we dislike those things, we have a kind of disgust and contempt, and we refuse, we do not accept, we do not approve this type of incident causing death and harm to other lives just because for personal pleasure. Of course, this is some kind of that person has kept the bomb, but their target is different. So, they want to hurt many others and to show their power and everything, right. So, anyway, so we are not going to approve this kind of incident or happening at all. At the same time, we have to sympathize with these innocent people, because that may happen to anybody anywhere in the world, because this poem describes about a terrorist act, right. So, next moment sometimes another set of people in another place may experience the same bitterness, same bitter feelings, loss of loved ones, they are injured or something like that. So, anyway, we feel sympathy, we feel sorry for everyone, right. So, at the same time, the feelings of misery, sadness, unhappiness, those are very common feelings with violence, terror and kind of terrorist acts, right. So, up to now the poem is clear and the ideas conveyed by these lines are clear to you. So, let us move on to the next slide. Right. Now, after all this, the situation after 36 seconds, that is mentioned in the next stanza of the verse. Now, look at that picture, a beautiful girl. She is in a very carefree mood and she is very happy, not knowing anything that will happen in a few seconds, right. So, seconds, minutes difference, I think you know, right. 60 seconds make 1 minute and 60 minutes 1 hour, right. So, now time is 13:17, 4 seconds, 13:17, 40 p.m. now, time countdown, right. 36 seconds has passed from that time and the poem started saying 13:17, right. Then 13:17, 40 seconds, that girl, she is walking along with a green ribbon in her hair. So, how happily she walks, that happiness, will it be there in a few minutes? Will it be there forever? That may be the last few minutes of her life. She does not know anything what is going to happen, but the terrorist and the one who is watching, the writer knows what is going to happen. But neither the writer nor the terrorist is going to stop this. That is the reason for that, we will talk, because the terrorist of course will never, and why does not the writer do so? Let us move on. Okay, I will repeat the lines, otherwise we won't get at the meaning. 13, 17 and 40 seconds, that girl, she's walking along with a green ribbon in her hair. But then the bus suddenly pulls in front of her. Now suddenly a bus comes and pulls in front of her. Do you think that she is going to meet with an accident just because of the bus stopped? No, no. Only thing is, weave is covered and they could not watch what happened to this girl, whether she went in or not, right? 13, 18, the girl is gone. Was she that dumb? Did she go in or not? Actually, that word dumb is good for that terrorist or the other one watching, but that girl is not dumb at all. She doesn't know anything. But those who know can get that idea. She's a silly one. She's a foolish one to go in because they know what's going to happen. Not knowing what's going to happen when somebody goes in to the bar, can we say that that person is dumb? No, they are going to enjoy, right? So maybe she is going to find her parents or the little sisters or something, right? Then what happens here now? During this time countdown, we have got the feelings of doubt and anxiousness or anxiety, inquisitiveness, what will happen next? Because that time countdown is very important. 13, 18, the girl is gone. Now 13, 18, now after 20 seconds, right? So 13, 18, after 20 seconds, they are going to confirm that that girl has gone, don't know whether she is inside or has gone out. Fine. So now when we read this, we have a kind of tension, we have a kind of suspension. Oh, what is going to happen next? So we feel very much interested in going on reading this poem, right? Then we will see when they carry them out. Now look at that word, we will see, right? So we will talk about that later. Let's read the lines. We will see when they carry them out. 13, 19, one more minute for the bomb to go, right? So the tension is very much serious now. Time count is very important in that way, right? So the writer has brought out very successfully the tension that he created, that she created in the minds of the reader, right? Somehow no one is going in. So that is a sad event or sad news for the terrorist, because he is not going to get anyone else in trouble, right? So when people are in trouble only, he is happy. Another guy, fat, bald-headed, is leaving. Fine, he is also going out. Again, though, wait a second, he is going to stop. Look like he is looking for something in his pocket, and time is 13, 20 minutes minus 10 seconds, right? So now 13, 19, 50 seconds. Within another 10 seconds, everything will be over. So again, we have got that curiosity or anxiety. What will happen to that bald-headed man who was coming out? After that, he was checking something in his pockets and he goes back in for his crummy gloves. So he understood that his gloves are not there. I have shown you the picture. So what is he going to do? He is going in again to look for those. So will he be able to be free or save his life? No, right? So this crummy gloves, at the moment gloves, of course something important for the person, that fat, bald-headed man. But when it comes to that whole entire life, what that crummy gloves is, if he could go, he could have saved his life for the entire period of time, his lifetime, lifespan. But particular concern, particular interest that he shown for the need of these gloves to go out made his life a miserable one, because definitely he will caught up in the last. We know that only 10 seconds remaining. So, if he was able to go and find his gloves and come back, no problem, he is safe, right. So, but anyway, children, can you note down how this tension is created by the writer, right, bringing out this time countdown, at the same time giving us some details about the people and their behavior or their way of doing things. Important, very important, are very important at this moment, because that saves their lives or that brings destruction or kind of like loss of their lives, and they will end up in death. They will end up in death, right. So, what's there in the next poem? So, idea is clear to you, and that particular word, we will see when they carry them out. What is it? We will see. Now, who is we? And they carry them out. They and them. Pronoun they and them refer to different things. They are different people. We means the writer and the terrorist, because they too are the people who are watching this incident, right. Terrorist very happily, and the poet also with a critical mind, right. With the critical mind, poet is also looking at, and then they both can see who went in, came out or not, when the bodies or when these wounded people are taken out of the bar. See how cynical these thoughts are. Now, children, have you noted or have you heard, of course, these things are very common in modern society or present day society, when certain like pathetic situation or very unfortunate situation is going on. Now, the habit of our people is to video it or to show it to others for future use. They just video the things happening, and they never extend their helping hand, or they are not going to save these lives. They have become like news reporters. There are journalists and these reporters to do that job, but ordinary people, they could help each other. But that value of humanity is no more there. It is getting lesser, and at the end that won't be there at all, right. So, these things are very of course, very much unfortunate and very unhappy things happening in our society, especially because Sri Lankans as set of people who had this unity and these mutual relationships were very much valued and appreciated, and we helped each other. So, that is lost, right. So, here the writer says, we will see when they carry them out. They are waiting this till this happens, right. So, they carry them out. Those who are coming to help these victims, those who caught up in the bomb is referred with that word them, and they means the people who come to help or to take them to hospitals, maybe the paramedical or medical staff, ambulance services, or some other people with kind heart and genuine people. Those who can't look away and go may come and help, right. So, then you see how much they are demeaning this humanity, how much they have put down the social and moral values of our lives. As a social being, people are not doing their responsibility, and morally we have gone down, right. So, that is why the writer, as a person who watches everything, going to give these ideas. So, if she was not watching, she can't tell these things. Some may get that idea. Actually, this is a poem that she has created, composed, not actually she is watching, but her experience in war, because I gave you a background information, right, how she learnt. So, that means she might have experienced these things in abundance when she was a small one. So, this is something that she might have written with that first hand experience, her real life experience sometimes, right. So, anyway, she talks about this and how people have gone down in their values in humanity, right. So, then let us see what happens next. 13:20 exactly, the time to have this blast, the bomb to make that huge destruction, 13:20. This waiting, it's taking forever. And second now, no, not yet. Yes, now the bomb, it explodes. So happily, the terrorist may say these things, or the person who watched this may say, but think of the destruction that it causes. Can you remember the picture I showed you with the title of the poem, right? So that is the blast, the fire, explosion of the bomb, right? So how do you feel at last? Are you happy? This is under the theme of conflicts. Conflicts end up in some kind of unhappiness, destruction, violence, corruption, and all that. So definitely it leads to misery and unhappiness, right? What do you think of the writer who was observing it? She was giving us a clear idea or clear picture, of course, about what was happening. She was not looking at the perspective of the terrorist, but she was looking at it critically. Then what do you think? He didn't inform it and stop it and stop everything. So that's the reason I told you now, right? This is just a poem that she composed. Have you heard and seen people videoing certain accident or some destructive event without helping them really? That's what I was taking your attention or drawing your attention to, right? So how many of you have done that? If you have done that, it's very wrong, and correct yourself. Think of the feelings, have that empathy. If we face such a situation, how would we feel? Is it fair to do so? Is it a form of entertainment? No, never at all. There should be a kind of evidence or kind of like what happened, that's true, right? But of course, to have like news reporting, everybody is videoing, it is something absurd, something silly. So there are so many other things we can do, right? He was imagining this, and just he grabs our attention to this particular event, and he effectively and successfully make us enjoy the poem, right? Then a woman in yellow jacket, she is going in. A man in dark glasses, he is coming out. Teenagers in jeans, they are talking. 13, 17 and 4 seconds. The short one, he is lucky, he is going on a scooter, the one who saved the life. But the tall one, he is going in. Now look at the words I have highlighted in blue. So all these are in continuous form. She is going in, he is coming, they are talking, he is going on a scooter, he is going in. We get some action verbs and we hear that it is happening at that moment. So that is why the terrorist is having that weave just like the movies, because when we are watching a movie we see how people do things right at that moment. So likewise, away from that particular scene where the bomb is going to blast, he is watching all these things happily, because the writer has used this continuous form. It gives that effect of watching a movie like idea. So dramatic effect is there, especially as if we are watching a movie. Even when we read these lines, we have all these visual imageries or pictures in our mind, right? So about these tall people, jeans, teenagers in jeans, everything, right? Fine. I think what I wanted to say is clear to you, right? They are talking, he is coming out, she is going in, he is going on a scooter, he is going in. Again, I explained what is this first, like how we are going to look at it with impersonal attitude. Now watching like a movie, these actions are in continuous form. Fine. Then techniques. We have enough of visual imagery, and the bomb blast, of course, we can have this sound imagery as well. Then after that, symbols like bar, a place of merrymaking or a form of entertainment where we can have kind of fun, and crummy gloves, of course, are worn for protection and safety, but that particular item of course caused his death, right. Then bus facilitating the journey of life, like, and then suddenly it came and stopped the vision of that particular one who was weaving it, but still we can take it that way as well, right. Then the terrorist to symbolize violence, terror and fear. Now, can you remember the point I mentioned at the beginning, that even a second is very important in a situation like this for the safety of a life, and what we do is very important. Even a fracture of a second will be very important to save our lives or not. So, how much the time is important in a place like this where there is so much of violence caused by war and terrorists and their threats, right. Then language, the use of continuous form of sentences, it gives dramatic effect to the poem and the incident, as well as I told you, like watching a movie we get that feeling, and at the same time a kind of evidence, like, right. So, evidently that is happening because it is in continuous form, no changes, right. So, at that moment that particular action was taking place, happening, right. So, there is a kind of evidence. Then pronouns and common nouns used to show that impersonal reporting style. Then casual tone, not very serious, right. Use of countdown is very much important to bring the effect of suspense, fear, and definitely that thing is going to happen, like, and unavoidability and tension and anxiety in the minds of the reader. And to confirm that this particular thing is going to happen at this particular moment, time count is very important, right. Let us move on to the next slide. And description of projected view of the entrance to a bar is there in the poem, and that tell us the uncertainty or unpredictability of life, because life is not secured or unsecured, because we get to know that because of these terrorists explaining it, or the writer with his observation, is going to give us that this bomb is going to go off in 4 minutes, right. So, we know that uncertainty of life, people are going there to enjoy, but actually they will end up with something else, with their death or injury. So, uncertainty, unpredictability, who knows what will happen at the next moment, unpredictability. Life is of course always unpredictable, we can't predict what will happen at the next moment. Fate unfolds its destiny. So, if we have our fate, how we are going to meet the events the next moment, it is of course unfolding its destiny, its final or the stop point, right. Then after that, its own episode of the drama of life. We all are having the drama of life. You grow as a child from the infancy to then the youth, and then after that old age and everything. And what we do in our life is of course a part of a drama. So, fate take us, and all these episodes are there, and they are unfold as the fate going to take us to that destiny or the destination. Fine. Man's deviation of or moving away from moral values and humanity, I told you that. Influence of extremist behavior of an individual or a group on other lives, the influence of other people's lives that these extremist groups or people going to create. So, very recently also we had a kind of like bad experience 1 or 2 years ago, fine. So, that those are the things that extremist behavior of individuals or group of people bring to others, right. Can the poem the terrorist he is watching be taken as an implication of terrorism, and violence is a common and global experience of the people at present. Write your answer drawing examples from the poem. So, I think I gave you a clear-cut answer for this in my explanation or in my discussion. So, then you can just have some ideas, and I have put a few more words to help you in that answer. And then the second question is, the poem The Terrorist is Watching is a showcase of how cynicism and wildness in a limited individuals destroys the peacefulness of majority. So, majority was represented by the people in the bar, and that limited individuals were represented by the terrorist who placed the bomb and watched everything away from that place of destruction, place of violence. Right. Then, so the terrorist he is watching is a showcase of how cynicism, how bad and how wild these people to put the lives of other people in danger. So, and to disturb their peacefulness. Fine. Let us move on to the last slide. The threat to the lives of innocent majority with the cynicism of the rebellious groups. They are of course having kind of harming others and causing violence, right. Rebellious groups are not friendly, they are always bringing a kind of unhappiness and displeasure. Violence and terror destroys the happiness of unarmed majority of civilians. Those who enjoy inside the bar is just an example, and it is a symbolic representation of all the other places. Hypocrisy in selfish, egocentric, rebellious groups, because they think of themselves only, they are not bothered. That is why that impersonal attitude is shown, right. So, they are rebellious, of course, always having these violent ideas and causing violence and bringing kind of harm to everybody. The terrorist who watches represents the terrorism in the entire world. I think I have given you enough of information and helped you to analyze this poem and to get the meanings conveyed in those lines, and we related what we know or what we have experienced into the experience or the ideas expressed by the poet as well. So, I am going to wind up my lesson at this, and I am going to meet you again on another day. Until that time, stay safe. Goodbye.